For the first time in a decade, NATO has grown. Its newest addition, a tiny country in the Balkans, with a population of just over 600,000 people. I'm Dana Lewis, and I've come here to Montenegro to find out why it's just become the 29th member of NATO. It's a decision that's divided the nation, it has enraged Russia, and it's put this small country at the center of a geopolitical tug of war between East and West.
Our accession to NATO is not against any other country, especially not a regional country, but for sure not against Russia.
A giant historic leap forward in the context of our overall culture, democratic development.
Ono što znam da je vojna doktrina Rusije takva da u ovom trenutku je i Crna Gora postala legitimna meta samim učlanjenjem u NATO savez.
90 minutes drive from Montenegro's capital of Podgorica, Montenegro's army is in action. Troops now fly the NATO flag and carry out simulated mountaintop assaults with other Western countries like Austria. Against this backdrop, the machine gun fire and military drama suggests a major fighting force. But the entire army is smaller than most provincial police forces. Why does NATO want Montenegro in its alliance? The fact is, this is a tiny army, only 2,000 soldiers. But it paves the road for other countries to potentially join NATO, and its membership sends a very strong message to Russia. By signing up Montenegro as its 29th member, NATO now strategically controls the entire northern shore of the Mediterranean from Portugal to the Syrian border, and its ports will no longer welcome Russian warships. Montenegro's defense minister questions Russia's motives in opposing his country's ascension to NATO. Why do you think Russia sees NATO as a threat, and what is your message to them?
I'm pretty sure our accession to NATO is in the best interest of Russia, if their interest is peace and stability in the region. Yeah, so we will see.
Russia's annexation of Crimea, its intervention in Ukraine and Georgia, and military threats to NATO countries in the Baltics have helped push Montenegro into NATO's arms.
I don't believe we have ever been the primary target of Russian politics in the region. We are only one piece of the puzzle. I believe that as any big power, now in a kind of rise, Russia is trying to challenge international liberal order.
How far was Russia willing to go to block the NATO ascension? Montenegro claims Russia directed a coup plot against the government. It was discovered on the eve of Montenegro's October elections. And the country's chief prosecutor says some of the 14 people indicted in the alleged coup have direct connections to Russian security services. The prosecution alleges that the coup plotters were hiding amongst pro-Russian demonstrators outside of Parliament, that they would sneak inside Parliament and once in here, open fire dressed as policemen to make it look like the government had shot their own people. And then after that, the prosecution says they intended to assassinate the prime minister.
To je najveća glupost. Dakle, ja nisam nikakav ruski agent, ja sam crnogorski političar koji se zalaže za najbolje moguće odnose sa Rusijom, jer se radi o našem istorijskom i tradicionalnom.
Milan Knević is an opposition party leader and one of those indicted. He says the government created the coup to sway support for NATO and reinforce resentment of Russia. He reveres the Kremlin and prominently hangs a picture of a World War II Russian general on his wall.
Mi ćemo, kada dođemo na vlast, organizovati referendum na kojem ćemo preispitati odluku o učlanjenju Crne Gore u NATO. Mi smo imali paralelnu skupštinu u Murinu, mjestu koje je simbol stradanja od ove agresivne alijanse koja je bombardovala.
so-called aggression that is still fresh in the minds of some Montenegrins. Just 18 years ago, NATO bombed Montenegro at the beginning of its campaign to free Kosovo. Montenegro has mixed memories of NATO. In 1999, this was an underground warplane hangar. NATO bombed it in the war. 27 planes were destroyed. Today, it houses 1.5 million liters of wine. Wine that could age here for many months or years to come. Once Montenegro's main export to Russia. Since it joined NATO, Moscow banned all wine imports from the country. Its beaches have been targeted too. Russia's foreign ministry has warned Russian tourists against going to Montenegro.
You know, we are not neighbors, immediate neighbors, physical neighbors, geographic neighbors to Russia. Consequently, we have our own right. And it was a very legitimate but also realistic projection of ours.
But along that sparkling Montenegrin coast, Russian tourists are becoming more scarce. The government keeps official statistics on tourism, but if you really want to know how NATO membership affects business, ask in a souvenir shop.
Last summer, maybe every second customer was Russian.
And now?
But now, if we get only 5 Russians to come in the shop, that's it. That's enough.
It's a dramatic drop.
I'm sure 70%. I'm sure.
On the beach, we found this Russian taking his family for a jet boat tour. Sergei told me he's ignored his own government's warnings because it's just politics.
Я осложнений никаких не вижу в том, что Черногория вступила в НАТО. Я не военный человек, я обычный, простой гражданин. Отдыхать здесь прекрасно. НАТО не вижу.
And Russians were some of the biggest investors in Montenegro's so-called Riviera. Russia clearly sees NATO's expansion into Montenegro as a loss of influence, power, and pride. The question is, will NATO's presence here long-term be a stabilizing factor as it has been in other parts of Europe since World War II? Or is this dangerous tinkering in Eastern Europe? Because another conflict in the Balkans could drag NATO into a war it never counted on. Montenegro's people and its politics are being pulled in opposite directions as lines are drawn between the East and now its closest ally, NATO, and the West.